August 8, 1918. The Great War was about to enter its final act that would end on November 11th. Playing the lead role would be the 139,000 soldiers of the formidable Canadian Corps. The Germans knew the Canadians were coming, and they were frightened by the prospect. But when the Canadians arrived in England in 1914, the British High Command called them an undisciplined colonial rabble. Now, they were considered the best trained, best led, most feared formation in the Allied Army. And the chief architect in this transformation was their Canadian-born commander, General Sir Arthur Currie. It is hard to imagine a more unlikely hero. Born near Strathroy, Ontario, December 5, 1875, to Irish immigrants, Arthur was the third of 7 children. When his father died suddenly in 1891, young Arthur took up teaching to feed his family. He grew restless in the classroom, and in 1894 moved west to Victoria to seek his fortune. He married Lucy in 1901, and they had 3 children. Currie began his military career in the militia in 1897. He was a passionate soldier who studied hard and was promoted. In early 1914, he raised, recruited, and commanded the 50th Gordon Highlanders. He became a prosperous land speculator and made friends in high places, notably Canada's Minister of Militia and Defence, Sir Sam Hughes, and the minister's son, Garnet. In 1913, Victoria's real estate market collapsed, and Currie was plunged into debt. Desperate for cash, he borrowed, without permission, $10,000 from the regimental funds to cover his losses. It weighed heavily on his mind, and he eventually repaid the debt in full during the war. Canada went to war in August 1914, and within weeks, 30,000 Canadians, including Currie, had gathered at Valcartier, Quebec. Sir Sam Hughes gave Currie command of 4,000 men, the 2nd Brigade. It was Hughes's best decision of the war. "From the first, he was an outstanding man amongst the Canadians," observed Canadian Prime Minister Robert Borden. The Canadians departed for France October 3, 1914. It would be 5 years before Currie would return. By April 1915, the 18,000 Canadian soldiers of the 1st Division, including Currie's brigade, were holding the line near the town of St. Julien, Belgium. At 5 p.m. on April 22nd, Currie's baptism of fire commenced. The Germans lodged chlorine gas on the French soldiers next to the Canadians. The French line was broken, and Currie ordered his brigade to plug the gap. The battle lasted 3 days, and Currie's superiors lauded his performance. But it had been a bloody baptism. He lost 1,800 men. In September, Currie was promoted to command of the 1st Division. Under his leadership, they became an elite formation. As a commander, Arthur Currie embraced new fighting methods and technologies. He was open-minded and not hidebound to traditional ways of fighting. He was liked and respected by his fellow officers, but his soldiers found him aloof and distant. A stickler for discipline and his pear-shaped appearance earned him the nickname Old Guts and Gators. But what he lacked in the common touch, he put his soldiers' well-being first, and his motto was, "Waste shells, not lives." In June of 1916, British General Sir Julian Byng took command of the Canadian Corps, which had grown to 4 divisions of 18,000 men each. Byng quickly saw Currie's potential and sent him to observe the French army. What Currie learned produced a major overhaul of the Corps and set the stage for its most famous victory the following spring, at a place called Vimy. On April 9, 1917, the Canadian Corps stormed Vimy Ridge. It was the British Army's first complete victory of the war. It was also the birth of a nation. Currie performed splendidly, and in June 1917, when Byng was promoted, Currie took over the Corps, becoming the British Army's highest-ranking colonial, and at 41, its youngest Corps commander. Currie never lost a battle. His first victory came shortly after Vimy in August at Hill 70. But this was nothing compared to what came next. In early October, British Field Marshal Douglas Haig ordered the Canadians to Passchendaele. Haig told Currie to attack straight away, but Currie refused. Haig insisted. Currie demanded more time to prepare, and Haig gave Currie 2 weeks. Roads were built, attack routes planned, and German bunkers pinpointed. Canadians attacked October 26th, and after 2 weeks of heavy fighting, the Canadians captured Passchendaele. Before the battle, Currie had predicted they would suffer 16,000 casualties. Unfortunately, he was correct. Thousands were forever lost in the blood-soaked mud. Passchendaele is remembered as a senseless slaughter, but without Currie, It could have been worse. Currie was running out of soldiers. He disbanded the 5th Division, which was training in England, and used its 18,000 soldiers to bring the 4 divisions in France up to strength. Garnet Hughes, son of Sir Sam Hughes, was in command of the 5th. Father and son never forgave Currie for disbanding his son's division. In December 1917, the country voted for conscription, and Currie had his recruits. By the spring of 1918, the Canadian Corps was at its peak of its strength, but this was a mixed blessing. Some of the war's worst fighting lay ahead. On March 21, 1918, the German army attacked, bolstered by thousands of reinforcements from the Eastern Front following Russia's surrender. They drove deep into the Allied lines, but by mid-July, the advance ran out of steam. Haig had spared the Canadians from the worst of the fighting so that they could spearhead the counterattack. The Germans knew they were coming, and they had come to respect the Canadians, who they no longer referred to as British. The Canadians were in Belgium. The Germans watched their every move, and then on the night of August 5th, the Canadians disappeared. Employing stealth and deception, Currie moved the entire corps south to Amiens, France. Undetected, they moved into position and attacked on August 8, 1918. The Germans were taken by surprise. It was Currie's tour de force. He coordinated tanks, armored vehicles, artillery, and fast-moving infantry. It was Blitzkrieg Currie style. The German line disintegrated. The German High Command called it the Black Day of the German Army, and no wonder. The Canadians advanced 13 kilometers and captured 10,000 prisoners. In the war's final 100 days of almost continuous fighting, Currie's Canadians fought 6 major battles, bested 1/4 of the German army, and advanced further than any other Allied unit. But the price of the victory was high, and Canadians suffered nearly 46,000 casualties. Currie considered the last 100 days the Corps' finest hour. On November 11, 1918, the war in Europe was over. But in Canada, the war over Currie's reputation was about to begin. In Parliament, a vindictive Sam Hughes attacked Currie, claiming he had sacrificed Canadian lives in pursuit of personal glory. Hughes died in 1921, and the attacks abated, but the rumors persisted. In 1927, an Ontario newspaper repeated the accusations, and Currie launched a libel suit. The trial gripped the nation, and Currie's reputation was exonerated. He went on to become the principal of McGill University and was instrumental in creating the Canadian Legion. But the war and the protracted legal battle had broke his health, and he died of a stroke in 1933. He was 57. It was only with his death that the Canadian government officially recognized Currie's service with a state funeral attended by over 200,000 and broadcast on CBC radio. Today, Currie is considered one of the most successful generals of the First World War and unquestionably Canada's greatest general. Under Currie, the Canadians never lost a battle, but for Currie, the Corps always came first. I could write forever of the doings of the finest soldiers in all the world. The Canadians. General Sir Arthur Currie was truly a monumental Canadian.